Hi, I'm Steve Hansen with GridLogic, and in this visual how-to I'm going to demonstrate how you can use the exciting new Excel Services REST API in SharePoint Server 2010 to programmatically retrieve data from an Excel workbook. Specifically, I'll create a web part that allows you to select a workbook containing sales information and allow you to inject that into a prospect letter. The web part uses the Excel Services REST API to retrieve data from Excel, and then the OpenXML SDK to insert it into the Word document. Before I begin, let me just give you a quick demo of the finished application. There are three primary components. The first component is the TCO document itself. These are located into a TCO document library, as we're seeing here. I'll just go ahead and open one of these up. Now, TCO stands for Total Cost of Ownership. These models are used as sales tools when selling expensive equipment. What I'd like to do is, after completing a TCO model for a client, automatically generate a follow-up letter containing the key results shown on the TCO result page here in the total lifetime cost section here. So this has got results for the three machines that this person was looking at. The second thing is the TCO template. This is the template for the prospect or the follow-up letter that I'd like to generate. Looking at this, you can see there's some content controls here for customer name, along with the table of information which I'd like to inject that comes from the TCO workbook document that we just looked at. Now the final part is the part that I'm going to develop. This is the TCO prospect generator web part. What this does is allows you to select from a list of the TCO models in your TCO document library, and then when you select it, you can click Create Prospect Letter, and after it creates the prospect letter, if I refresh my TCO prospect letters document library here, I can see I've got a new document for Anna. I'll go ahead and open that up. You can see it's been populated with Anna's name and with the information from the TCO model associated with Anna. Alright, so let me take a look through the Visual Studio project here. Now what I did was I created an empty SharePoint project, and then I went under project and added a new visual web part. Taking a look at the design surface for this visual web part, you can see I just added a drop-down list and a button here, along with a few labels. Now there are two primary things I need to do here. First, I need to add the documents I find in the document library, the TCO document library, into my drop-down list. So I just loop through those, and for each one I find, I'm going to add them to the list. Now the second thing is what happens when you create or click on the button. So I've got a method called create letter. I'm not going to go into great details, but some of the things I'm doing in here is, first of all, I want to go and get a copy of the TCO template from my prospects letter document library, use the copy to method to create a new file based on the name of the TCO model that I'm going to be pulling data from. So after I do that, I'm going to use the OpenXML SDK to open up a word processing document. Once I have the word processing document, then I'm just going to loop through, and I want to call my populate content control for all the different items that I want to inject into my Word document. So within populate content control, I'm going to do a few things. First, I need to get a reference to the content control. Then I need to go to Excel and get the value that I'd like to inject into that content control. Once I have that value, I'm going to call modify content control, and that's simply going to take that value and put it inside the applicable content control. So let me drill into get range value. This is the part I really want to focus on, because this is where we're using the Excel REST API to get this data out of Excel. Now, before I get too deep into this code, it really helps to bring up Internet Explorer so that you can so that you can see how you go ahead and create a URL that allows you to get to the data that you'd like to get to. So in Internet Explorer here, there's really three parts to creating this URL. The first part is the path to the Excel rest.aspx page. This is the page that exposes the REST API. The second path is the path to the model. In this case, I'm looking at Anna's model in the TCO document library. Third part represents the path to the resource that you'd like to access. Now, to just learn about how this is all structured, it helps to bring up the model here, as I've done here, and then you can go ahead and look at the ranges and charts and tables that are available within a workbook. So here we're looking at the ranges, specifically the range names within Anna's model. So one of the things that I want to put into this document is the customer name. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And when I do, notice that Internet Explorer says it cannot display this feed. Now, there's a reason for that, and if I scroll all the way to the right on the URL here, you can see I've specified the format as Atom. So this is going to give me an Atom feed for this data. So an Atom feed really just consists of XML. If I scroll down a little bit, I can see the customer name, Anabetics. This is the part that I'd like to inject into my Word document. Notice that you can also get an HTML format back. So here, if I change that to HTML, you can see now I have Anabetics displayed in Internet Explorer, and it brought back some of the formatting that was applied within the workbook itself. Okay, so back in Visual Studio now, notice in getRangeValue then, the first thing I do is construct that URL. I've got the path to the Excel rest.aspx. Then I create the path to the workbook in the TCO document library, passing in the workbook name, which was an argument, and then pass in the range name argument to get to construct the part or the path to the resource I'd like to access. Also notice I've got the Atom format specified here as well. So after I have that, then it's just a matter of creating the request. I need to pass in my default credentials, and then what I'm going to do is just simply, once I get the response back, I'm just going to pass this response as my return value. So remember that the response that comes back is all XML, and I don't need all of this XML in my content control. I really just want Anna's name. So if I look at populate content control, this is where you can see I've got a few lines here that parse this XML just so I can get down to the node in that XML that represents the value that I'm interested in. Once I have that value, I can pass that into my modify content control text procedure, and that's just going to take that value and put it in the appropriate content control. So before I sign off on this video, let me point out that one of the benefits of using the REST API is that the code is really portable. It doesn't require that you have to add any references or other class libraries, and there's no object model to learn. You just really need to understand how to create the correct URL for the resource item out of an Excel workbook that you need to access. And also in this video, while I've only extracted range values, you can also use the REST API to extract charts as images from Excel workbooks, which is a great way to leverage the content within an Excel workbook. So that concludes this visual how-to. I'm Steve Hansen with GridLogic. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.